Hello and welcome to the Omniscient Advanced Language Studio Features webinar. Today we're going to be going through a series of high-level features that we consider are some of our most advanced. These are by no means all of our features, and we will be going through those in a little bit of detail, but if you'd like more detail, please don't hesitate to contact us and we can drill down with you in a direct one-to-one. So today's presentation, I'm going to be covering introduction to our overall language processing platform, a quick mention on data security and privacy, our deployment models and tools, workflow and processing, and machine translation engine customization. Now we have, as I said, many more features, and I'm happy to drill down into these as needed, but today's webinar is just a very high-level introduction. And there will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. Okay, so let's first of all look at the overall platform. So Language Studio is a cloud-based platform, but of course we also offer on-premise for those very secure or very high-volume sites that need it. So really, when you look at it, the cloud is the next transition for any of these platforms globally, irrespective of really what you're processing. Cloud is now the end state. Sorry, not the end state, it's where you should begin right from the outset. So consider looking at the cloud for things like language processing, data processing, cleaning, automation, translation, and many other factors. So with the Language Studio platform, we're able to offer hybrid machine translation that integrates rules, statistics, neural, and syntax. We are the only platform today that can offer all those in a single workflow and a single translation outcome. We have complex linguistic processing. We have very powerful process and workflow tools. And of course, we offer machine learning. Now I'll be going into each of these in a little bit more detail shortly. We are, of course, integrated with many third-party products, and we have a comprehensive set of APIs and tools. Finally, we have our data repository that hooks in with our data manufacturing and automated management and training. So I'm going to be going through each of these today in detail, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention, of course, the last thing, and that is our set of skilled experts here that work with you to customize and create the highest quality deliverable possible. So let's look at some key definitions to begin with. First of all, we have machine translation. Obviously, that's the automated translation of text from one language to another using a variety of technologies, and those technologies can either be alone or together. Sometimes the machine translation can also include elements of other technologies, such as complex linguistic processing, machine learning, and other things that can be driven and integrated by workflow. I'll be giving some examples of that in a little while. Language Studio process and workflow tools allow you to have an orchestrated and repeatable pattern of business activity that's enabled by the systematic organization of resources into processes that transform various materials, data, and provide other services and process information in a variety of ways. We also have the complex linguistic processing functions that can then link in with those tools, such as identifying names and locations, perhaps part of speech, syntax structure, or even doing things like voice recognition. And finally, we have machine learning. This is a form of artificial intelligence that provides computers with the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. And our neural machine translation platform is part of that, obviously, but we can process many other kinds of data too. So machine learning process, they focus on the development of computer programs that can change when exposed to new data. Then we have our integration and automation. So we're tied in with various TMS platforms, such as Kilgrave MemoQ, SDL, XTM, MemSource, and others. And we also have a very advanced API, which I'll be drilling down in. One of the other advanced features is our highly automated and highly sophisticated engine customization workflows and tools that allow us to ingest customer data, third-party data, and also manufacture data into formats suitable for creating high-quality machine translation engines, as well as the ability to leverage all of our existing linguistic assets that are part of the Language Studio platform. We then have data manufacturing, and data manufacturing is really important in our environment. It's the creation via automated tools and advanced language processing of billions of words of content to support your language-specific tasks. Now, that may be for machine translation, or it may be for many other linguistic and language-related processes as well. And finally, the automated training and management. We have fully automated workflows for the preparation of data for custom machine translation engines. Okay, so now we've got the key definitions out of the way. Let's start digging under the hood a little bit. So today, Language Studio provides support for 550 language pairs. That was as of last Friday. Actually, we now have 552 language pairs with the addition of Sinhalese as one of the new languages we're supporting. We also have 13 industry domains to use right now, or you can build on top of. Now, these domains, we can break data out for you from our data set and our vast repositories of data, or we have pre-built models for translation and various other approaches to linguistic processing. One of the things that we take very, very seriously is data privacy. So at the end of the day, if you're not secure, you're not going to be trusted. We've put in place 4 steps. First of all, your data and your engine is private. Any data you provide to us will be used only for the purpose that it's provided and nothing else. Any custom engines or other types of models that you create with us are yours to use exclusively unless you authorize somebody else to use them. We have an ironclad contract that ensures that everything is secure, and it's much more comprehensive and protective than anything I've ever seen between, for example, 2 language service providers working with each other, or a human translator. Our infrastructure is in a very secure environment, hosted in the Netherlands, where we, of course, have to meet all the very strict and stringent privacy laws and regulations that are a part of the European Union. And finally, we have a series of policies and procedures that all our staff must abide by and are followed up on and checked on. So you can see we take data security and data privacy very seriously. Okay, so let's move on now to Language Studio deployment models. So we have a number of deployment models, and they fit different environments. Most of our customers are in the cloud. So our Language Studio cloud environment works very well for them. But some of them need a different requirement to others. So if you're just doing simple batch-based translation of a document now and then it's very simple. You use load on demand, and you share servers with our other Omniscient customers. Engines are loaded. They take a minute or 2 to load, and then you're off processing very quickly. We manage everything. It's our hardware, our environment. You simply get to leverage it and take the advantage of that. In the same environment, we also offer dedicated servers. Now, these servers are only available to you and nobody else, and that could be for a couple of reasons, but the 2 most common reasons are either you want real time, such as chat, so you can't wait for an engine to load. Now, that might be for customer support or instant email translation, something like that. The other is where you want an extra layer of security where you don't feel comfortable, or you don't contractually with your clients have the right to have a operation running in a shared environment. So we can offer the best of both worlds there. The next stage we have is Language Studio Enterprise. So this is on-site. It's in your data center. Okay, it's your hardware, and we can manage it for you as a service. The alternative is that it's in your data center on your hardware as a software subscription, and it's managed by your NLP staff and your team of engineers. So again, you have the best of both worlds there. The next is a new release for us. We have a Language Studio in a box. Now, Language Studio in a box comes in 3 different sizes: small, medium, and large. And depending on the functionality, the capability, and the scope of languages that you need for translation, you can pick the different sizes. So, for example, the small translates at somewhere between 3,000 to 12,000 words a minute, but it's running a single language pair and it's limited to SMT technology. Whereas medium and large can handle much higher volumes and is enabled for NMT as well as SMT. So in our shared server farm, what happens is a job comes in and our load balancer decides where that job should go. If that job was already running, previously that engine was already running previously for a different job. Let's say you translated a document 5 minutes ago, then that engine will be reused. You won't have to load it again. It doesn't have to load every single time. So that makes things fast and very efficient. Large jobs, we can allocate many servers. Small jobs, we can allocate a single server, so it can scale to meet your needs. And we also have dedicated servers that sit there purely dedicated to you, always on, ready to go. Now, Language Studio is architected for both scale and security. We have a very, very scalable architecture. Our largest customer today in production is doing a production job of 100 billion words. And this is translating patents from English to Japanese, and then followed by other languages later on, making that possibly up to maybe around 500 billion words. And they're doing that over a matter of months. So you can see that this is an exceptionally scalable environment. Now, when it comes to workflow and processing, we have a lot of very advanced features there also. So we have different workflow types. One of the core ones, of course, is our translation workflow. Now, each step of translation is controllable by you. There are 26 steps in total, and I'll go down into this in a little bit more detail shortly. But every second step enables you to have your own JavaScript logic. Now, then we have LSscript. LSscript is a fully implemented JSR 292 JavaScript container that is highly compliant with the ECMA JavaScript specification. What that means is you can take readily available skills in the marketplace and customize your own workflows very, very quickly. Now, LSscript is available in two forms: desktop or server in your environment, or Language Studio environment where you can run machine translation in what we call LS jobs. LSscript enables processes and workflow that executes complex linguistic processing, including some very, very powerful sets of functionalities for natural language processing. These even include things like speech recognition. So I'll be going through that in a couple more slides' time. Now, to integrate with workflow of your own, of course, we have a very comprehensive REST API. So the Language Studio REST API enables translation. It enables access to pre-built industry engines, custom MT training, machine learning, complex language processing, workflow and process, and custom language data solutions. So let's look at our translation workflow now. Okay. As I mentioned, you have a very full set of functionality. It's broken into 26 stages, but those 26 stages can actually be classified into 3 sets. There is pre-translation, and in pre-translation, you prepare the source for the best translation result possible. You might modify it, you might mark it up with markers to say these things are non-translatable, such as a brand name. You may format that source with rules, and you might do conversions such as metric conversions. And I'll be talking about metric conversions and similar in a little while. When it comes to translation, obviously we have intelligence there. Now, we can translate with multiple technologies at the same time and integrate the results, or choose the best technology based on a particular sentence and switch between different engines and even different writing styles within an engine. We're able to determine unknown words and call out to other systems for help. And then we can do secondary translations when needed. In post-translation, we have lots of things like confidence score analysis, normalization, many other factors. And I'll be going through these in a little bit more detail shortly. So let's look at pre-processing. So in pre-processing, there is a series of steps. The first one, we retrieve the source. Now, before or after retrieving that source, you may want to do some processing. For example, if you have an image, you might want to call out and OCR that image. So that can be done. So where you see the red lines, that's where we enable JavaScript, and you can do anything you want in that JavaScript. So we have a travel customer, as an example, who goes out in real time to xe.com and gets live exchange rates. So what they do is they look for anything that's not in euro. If they find anything, they then convert that to euro instantly, given the real exchange rate. Now, JavaScript can be a bit complex. So we also offer what's called basic rules. So pre-translation corrections. Non-translatable terms and runtime glossaries all fall into that category. A pre-translation correction is able to fix things that you already know are not good in your source content. For example, we had a customer a while back where their content management system was losing all XML content. So things like the supertext markers were being dropped off. So you would end up, instead of a trademark with a couple of letters up top, TM, you would have very big letters, full size. Intel TM is one word. And that was obviously not the right word. So we were able to put rules in to repair that sort of thing. You're able to do things like runtime glossaries to either add terminology that's not in the engine today, or to set preference terminology for a particular job. And of course, non-translatable terms. When we go to translate, we do translation in two passes. The first pass, we translate and then we validate that there's no unknown words. If there are any unknown words, we have a choice. We can leave it as is, or we can go out to third-party translation services and ask for help. Now, let's be honest, there is no human in the world that knows every single word, and there is no machine either. So falling back and asking a dictionary or another machine translation third-party system for a little bit of help is a nice solution to solve that problem. There's no guarantee that it's going to be right, but it's certainly better than guaranteeing that it's going to be wrong by leaving it in the original language. Then we move to post-translation processing. So things like recapitalization, matching capitalization in the source if you wish to, reinserting markup such as HTML or XLIF tags. Post-translation adjustments allow you to modify the output. So you might have a style guide that says after a colon, you need 3 spaces. Or you might have a style guide that says you need a non-breaking space between numbers and units. All of those things can be applied with basic rules. For more complex processing, you can do advanced rules. So as an example, for one customer at the moment, we just released an engine last week in Urdu, and the engine was Urdu script, but they actually wanted Romanized Urdu. So at the very last stage before merging back into the original document and saving, we called one of our Language Studio tools APIs that converts Urdu script to Romanized Urdu. And that works very, very seamlessly. Now, why are rules like this important? So if you look at this, let's take the example of user-generated content. So often user-generated content has low-quality data, misspellings, words glued together, bad punctuation, many other things like that. So we're able to repair many of those things automatically. Things like 5 to 8 of September that don't have spaces around it, that can be automatically repaired. Or one thing that really messes up translation, of course, is when you start playing with brackets. So if somebody does a smiley, you want that smiley to be handled properly. You want to mark it as do not translate, and then you can handle many different forms of smileys as well. And we have libraries actually that can even detect all those smileys and lock them for you. We also can handle repeat data. So in this case, it was so good, can be broken down to so very good, so that it's more translatable. So that's a simple example. It's the old rule, garbage in, garbage out. So if you can create higher quality source, you get higher quality output. Now, another area that we've used this heavily is in things like e-commerce, where we've got lookup services to look up brands, product names, product codes, and many other things. As such, we've built a database there of more than 1 million brands and products that ensure that Apple is only translated when it's on a t-shirt and not when it's the brand name of an electronics device. Okay. We can do things like named entity recognition. So Grand Hyatt, the Blues Bar, Boat Key, and John all get detected, and you can mark those up as do not translate automatically so that things are handled properly. Otherwise, the engine might not know Blues Bar, but it knows the words blues and bar, so it will try and translate it. We can do conversions, normalization of data. I mentioned earlier about cross-referencing data with other sources. That could be currency, URLs, GPS, all sorts of things. We can also use it to match capitalization. So if in one language the source content was capitalized for emphasis, we can match that in the target. Now here's an interesting set. So smart metrics. So a 21-inch television, in most countries, irrespective of what metric system they use, you want to keep it as a 21-inch television. But if that same television was 21 inches from the wall, if the country uses metric, then you probably want to do the distance as metrics. So we're able to convert the distance and keep the television at 21 inch. That makes a big difference to readability. Okay, so these are the kinds of things. We can normalize content to different formats. It could be temperature, it could be time display, it could be various other things. All of those are controllable by you. Okay? We can help you, but generally a lot of our customers are now doing this themselves. We have a very advanced object that we're constantly adding new functionality to. It's called LSTools. It's a helper object. Now, LSTools offers direct access to information about a job when you're processing it. So, for example, the script name, the script number, the job ID, session information, and application scope information. Now, session information is very important because sometimes you need to store data between steps. Every one of our steps is stateless. That means that it's blind to anything around it. It does its task and comes back with an answer. So sometimes you need to store data independently. You can use that with a session. LSTools also gives you advanced access to NLP functionality, things like the basic functions like sentence segmentation, part of speech, tokenization and detokenization, word segmentation, and things like syntax parsing. Or you can go to more advanced types of functionality, so sentiment analysis, document summarization, named entity extraction, language and domain ID, terminology extraction, voice recognition, all of those kinds of things. And then finally, you've got system functionality. So translating it at its base level, customizing an engine, training an engine. So sending an engine to actually train after you've uploaded the data through the API. Quality measurement, rule management, account and billing information is all accessible. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that LSscript is available in our system, but it's available in two modes, your location or in the cloud. So when it's in the cloud, you get full scripting functionality and some additional functionality such as session and application data. All functionality executed is in the cloud as a job. Okay, so it's very clear. Okay, so you can load up many, many jobs and let them run over a period of time, or you can run some features real time. Of course, the results at the end are downloadable. If you're running LSscript on your desktop or server, we give you an LSscript container that can simply be executed. It has the same scripting functionality, identical down to the very last detail, with a couple of very minor exceptions where you have local only functionality, such as, for example, executing external local code. Okay, the core functions all run locally. So things like doing encoding conversions or metric conversions, that all runs locally. If it's doing more complex processing, such as things like, let's say, language ID that needs models and other data, then that transparently calls through to our REST APIs as if it's running on our server, and it's totally transparent. You just feel like you're running it locally. So we're able to make that seamless, and you're able to transport, in most cases, your scripts from your desktop into our server environment and back again, so you can run them anywhere you wish to run them. So then we have LSJob. So LSJob will be released in a couple of weeks' time, and LSJob is the ability to submit jobs directly to an engine or processing and translate or process that data now in a variety of ways. So already today, we have translation as a job that's available today. We'll shortly be releasing things like document alignment, sentence alignment, quality measurement, language ID, and domain ID, amongst other predefined job types. And then you have LSscript jobs where your script can run on our server environment. Now, as an example of domain identification and classification, here's a piece of content that was downloaded from the IBM website. Now, this has some base data. The whole example is about 35 lines of content, so it's not very long. And this is readily available on IBM's website right now. Now, Just with that 35 lines, our language ID was able to extract this kind of information. So it's operating system technology, Linux software, package management systems, and various other categories. It's able to extract concepts, such as commercial products based on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, those kinds of things. Okay. It's also able to break that down into entities. So for example, RHEL, it broke out and then worked out the entity name as Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and that's software, academic disciplines, and operating systems. And you can see for each one, it's got detail, and also it breaks out all the keywords. Now, this is just a subset of the data that it broke out, but it gives you an idea of what automated analysis can really do. Now, this can be very, very powerful for many, many tasks. So if you're a language service provider, you might want to classify your translation memories and be able to look them up and link them and cross-reference them. If you're a movie publisher, you might want to analyze more than just the synopsis. You might want to analyze the entire script of the movie and break out concepts and relationships and many other things. So all of that kind of features and functionalities are available. Now, this is just one of the many features in Language Studio Tools and Language Studio Workflow. If you're interested in these kinds of language processing, please contact me directly and I'll give you a full walkthrough of the type of functionality that is available. We'll be releasing our documentation in the coming weeks, but in the meantime, feel free to contact me. Now, let's take that back a step to the translation process. And let's have a look at some of the things that we could actually do in that translation process. So in pre-translation processing, we could do language ID. So if we didn't know what language the document was, we could actually detect the language and then submit it to the right engine. So a lot of our customers doing data mining want to get everything back to English for processing. So they detect the language, they can then send it to the appropriate engine. They can also do domain ID to send it to the best engine for that domain. Could be document conversion, text extraction, OCR, code page conversions when you might have something that's not UTF-8, repairs, and many other things. In pre-processing, there's a whole variety of things such as brand and product recognition, word segmentation, all your rules being applied for different things, and so on. Decompounding of languages like German and breaking all of that out, all of that's possible. Then we go to post-processing, where we have a confidence score. So we're able to tell you, hey, we did a good job or we did a bad job. Now, there's many reasons why we may do a bad job. One of those bad jobs reasons might just be that the input was terrible to begin with. And I'll show you an example of how that can be leveraged shortly. And then after translation, doing other document conversions. So we have one customer who translates Word documents and PDFs on a regular basis. We output for them Word, text, and HTML so that they can view those in different tools. Okay, so let's have a look how we tie this all together now. So this is an example from one of our travel customers. So they have user-generated hotel reviews, and some of those hotel reviews are fantastically good quality, and some are terrible where, as an English speaker, I look at it and I can't even tell what they were trying to say in English. So maybe it's somebody who's learning a foreign language and is struggling with English, but has tried their best to write a review. So the first thing we do is we pre-process. We determine what's the optimal technology. We then translate. Then we analyze the scores. Now, in analyzing the scores, we can make a decision. If the score is from 60 to 100, it can go live now, no human review. If the score is 40 to 59, there is a light human post-editing, and any of those post-edits go immediately back into the engine, and at the end of each week, that engine is automatically retrained. So you're getting an improved engine. If the score is 30 to 39, then we store that translation for later. We're not going to publish it now. Now, with hotel reviews, you can get away with that, and maybe some other content you can't. So we're able to say, right, store this for a week. When the engine's retrained, try again. Maybe the engine will be better this time, okay, and may be able to handle it. Now, if that happens 3 times, then we just decide that the source is bad and we throw it away. Now, this customer has the luxury of throwing away content. They're running tens of millions of words through a day, every day. Now, if the score is really bad in the beginning, we just throw it away outright. So that's a workflow that the customer decided they wanted to put in play. Now, you can see that becomes a very, very powerful platform for processing content. So next, I'm going to introduce our new hybrid statistical and neural machine translation platform. So we've come a long way. A year ago, it was taking us on the same content about 4 weeks to train an engine. In January, it was taking us a week, and today it takes us less than a day. Recently, we had one run on the same data, took us about 19 hours. Now, when that comes to translation, a year ago, we were translating on a single GPU at about 3,000 words a minute. We're now up to around 40,000 words a minute on the same hardware. So we've really optimized our code, and we've got this very advanced. Now, because we've written a lot of our own code, we're able to add features that no other neural machine translation platform can offer today. So we're able to add domain adaptation, where we're able to create subdomains for you very quickly. Now, neural machine translation requires a lot of high quality data. We're able to manufacture some of that data for you to make things much easier. We're the only neural platform today to have support for dictionary, glossary, do not translates, and other forced translations. We have exceptionally accurate word alignment, which has been one of the big problems with neural machine translation, is because of the way it translates breaking things up into subparts, it's been very hard to trace where words move. We've solved that problem. And we're nearly solving now word order control. That once we have that last piece, with word order control, we will be 100% backwards compatible with our statistical platform. Right now, we're about 99% backwards compatible, where all the features, functions, and rules work nicely together. Now, why is hybrid better? Well, neural works very well in certain scenarios and very badly in other scenarios. And SMT works very well in some and very badly in others. So what we found over a large body of content is that around 65% of the time, neural is better. Okay, now that could be when the sentences are longer or better structured, or in particular when the language it has a lot of long distance reordering that statistical doesn't handle as well. About 28% of the time, they give out essentially the same quality. And about 8% of the time, SMT is better. So in particular, SMT is better on shorter content and on out-of-domain content. So neural does not do well when content is out of domain. So if you have a life sciences engine and you start trying to translate IT, you'll get an incomprehensible mess, whereas SMT will at least have a go at it. Now, by combining these outputs from neural and statistical, as well as in conjunction with rules and syntax, we're able to give you a much higher quality output. And that quality is notable the moment you look at the output. So in this example, the black is machine translation and the red is human. Now what you'll see, this is a translation from Japanese patents into English. And what you'll see is that often the machine can actually be better. Sometimes not quite as good, sometimes a little bit better. So in the first example, coagulation time is probably a better term than setting time. But a little bit further down, the hearing aid as opposed to the stethoscope, a stethoscope is probably a better word. Either way though, both translations, human and machine, are very good, and it's hard to tell the difference between the two. Now keep in mind, this is complex data, this is Japanese and patents. So it doesn't get a lot harder than that for a machine to process, or for that matter, a human. Now when we build an engine, we take our language pair foundation data and we take our industry data and we add client data on top. On top of that, we add manufactured data, and I'll be talking about manufactured data in more detail shortly. But manufactured data is really the key. So when we do customization, we have two modes of customization. I'm not going to spend much time on the first mode. The first mode is basic. That's where it's a do-it-yourself, where of course you need to know what is the right data to load into the engine. you need to combine that with an industry to build your base, and you upload your data, press a couple of buttons, and within an hour or two, you have your own custom engine. So that's a good start, but it's not going to give you the highest quality. It's going to give you a mid-range quality. Where the full customization comes in is what we call professional customization. Now, our experts will sit with you, we'll design an engine. And by design, I mean we will look at your data, we will understand your purpose, and we will create a quality improvement plan that's very, very explicit on how your engine is going to be built, what data is going to be created, what data you can provide. And this typically gives about a 300% productivity gain compared to if a human was doing translation. Now, this takes 2 to 3 weeks to create, and a big part of that creation is, again, the data manufacturing. So with these engines, we've also got one other partner type of engine, and that is industry engines. Now, these are engines that are on the shelf. They're our lowest level of engine in terms of quality, but they are immediately available to use and have been customized to a certain degree to be usable in a particular domain. They're typically a little bit better than Google, but they're specific to a domain, let's say life sciences. So if you use the word virus, it would understand it in the context of medicine versus virus in the context of IT and PCs. Now, we also have a series of processes that deal with different data scenarios. So it's not unusual for a language service provider or an enterprise to have no linguistic assets to begin with. So let's say you're a language service provider and a customer comes to you and they've got no translation memories, no glossary, nothing at all. We have a plan for that. And we've got varying degrees of processes and plans depending on language pairs and domains and the amount of data available to create your engine. So even with nothing, we can still create a high quality engine. So let's look at data manufacturing now. So Language Studio has behind it a vast repository of both bilingual and monolingual data. Now that data is in the many, many terabytes. And we've indexed that by language, and then we cross-reference that by domain when needed. Now, this is a very significant pool of data. I'm talking many, many terabytes. And that allows us to use our advanced mining tools and extract data and then refine data and use that to build out your engine or to build out models for other linguistic processing. So it's not uncommon when we build a custom engine to manufacture and create somewhere between 1 to 2 billion words of content. And that gives you things like writing style, domain context, and many other things. That can also be put into machine learning applications, and that helps create other more advanced functionality. So where traditionally you might have had significant barriers to creating both custom engines or language processing, with our data repository, you're able to leverage that and you're able to create very, very sophisticated language and knowledge projects by leveraging our data repository in conjunction with your own data. Now, here's just one example of how it's applied. So here's a Spanish input and 2 English outputs. Now, this was managing stylistic control. So for the same input, we were able to get 2 different outputs. One reads like Forbes or Economist, and the other one reads like a children's book such as Harry Potter. Now, if you were to apply this into a more realistic scenario for business, perhaps you have marketing content versus technical engineering manuals. You don't want your marketing reading like engineering content, and you don't want your engineering reading like marketing content. So this reduces the work for humans to edit, but it also means the content is in a more suitable format and context to begin with. Now, with Language Studio, we've also got the ability to switch writing style at a sentence-by-sentence level. Now, that may sound a little bit unusual, but think of the context of a patent document. Now, a patent has 4 different sections. It has title, claims, abstracts, and descriptions, and we're able to apply a different writing style to each one. But it doesn't end there. Patents also have different content type, ranging from science to biology, farming, you name it. So we're able to create different writing styles for different kinds of content, and both at a section level, sentence level, and document type level, switch writing styles. So this can be very, very powerful when used well. Now, we also do the same thing in e-commerce. So if you have products, let's say electronics, and then you switch to gardening tools, or you switch to suitcases, or perhaps clothing, you want different writing styles for each, and we're able to accommodate that at a line-by-line level or a product-by-product level. So that's my presentation for today. It's just a high-level introduction to Language Studio features. If you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer them. You can just pop them into the question dashboard, and I'll do my best to answer anything that you may have. Okay, so there doesn't appear to be any questions today. Hopefully I haven't scared anybody off. But if you do have any questions subsequently, please don't hesitate to ask. Oh, we do have one question. What's the price difference between NMT and SMT? None at all. Our pricing is based on an engine, and a hybrid engine is the same price as a neural engine, as a statistical engine. So basically you're paying for a customization irrespective of the customization technology used. I'd be happy to take that offline with you and go through in more detail if you're interested. Okay, there doesn't appear to be any other questions today. If there is, please don't hesitate to email me. My email address is on the screen, and I look forward to talking to you again next time around. Thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.